less than 2 weeks before the US midterm elections, with Democrats desperately trying to hold on to their razor-thin majority in Congress, the party is asking former President Barack Obama to perform some late-game heroics, or at least help limit their losses. Mr. Obama, who left office in 2017 after serving 2 terms, travels to Georgia on Friday and then moves on to Wisconsin, Nevada, and Pennsylvania, all key battlegrounds in the November the 8th election. All 4 states are home to competitive Senate races. Republicans need to pick up just 1 additional Senate seat to secure control of that chamber, with Georgia and Nevada looming as prime targets. Well, for more on this, let's speak to Arise US correspondent Eric Ham, who joins us live from Washington. Good to see you, Eric. So, President Biden facing the prospect of losing power in one or both chambers of Congress as the midterms draw near. I mean, what are the Democrats staking the vote on? I understand the economy has emerged as the top priority for most Americans.
You're right, Charles. That's true. And today, the Democrats got some really good news, that we believe that now President Biden is going to be using as a major talking point from now through the election day, and also other Democrats. Today, we got GDP numbers that show that the economy grew at 2.6%. And that actually beat expectations. And so today, President Biden is going to be traveling to New York, where he will be touting those numbers. In addition to the economy growing at the fastest that it has in the last 3 quarters, this also combines with a low unemployment rate throughout the country, as well as the United States tackling the all-important debt issue. So what we're seeing now is Democrats are now feverishly attempting to fight on both fronts. We know that abortion has been the single biggest issue Democrats have been running on. Republicans have been focusing on runaway inflation and rising prices, particularly gas prices. Now we see these last 2 weeks, Democrats are going to make that pivot from the abortion issue to the economy, where they will be talking about inflation as well as prices. In addition to that, gas prices have also begun to come down as well. And so now what we're seeing is, while Republicans have been spending millions upon millions focusing on the economy and saying they are best to tackle the economy, now these last 2 weeks, that's the issue that Democrats are going to be running on. But Charles, already early voting has already begun in the United States. In fact, more than 13 million people have already voted in this midterm election. And right now, while many polls are showing that the race is very tight, Democrats in the early voting have far outpaced Republicans so far. In fact, Charles, they are far ahead of where they were in the 2018 midterms. In fact, right now, it appears as though we're going to see voter turnout much similar to what we saw in the 2020 presidential race. And typically, when you have high voter turnout, it tends to favor Democrats. In addition to that, we do know that many young people, especially women, are going to be going to the polls for the first time this year as well.
Well, I mean, Eric, I'm wondering why, in the face of all these positive things for the Democrats that you've talked about, I mean, that there seems to be so much threat for them. And when you factor in, I mean, the president's legislative successes, including actions on infrastructure, climate, healthcare, student debts, I mean, why does all that seem to be overshadowed by what the Republicans are saying and doing?
Sure, Charles. And it comes down to 2 reasons why Democrats are having a very difficult time now. The first being the issue of messaging. Quite frankly, Republicans have been fighting on this economic and inflation matter for an entire year. Democrats have only pivoted to it, which is why most Americans believe that Republicans will be better for the economy over Democrats, even though Democrats have actually done the yeoman's work of actually tackling many of these issues. The second reason why Republicans have been so more effective is because we're talking about historic gains for the party out of power than the party that is currently in power. And Charles, this goes back more than 100 years, where Democrats are now trying to fight against history, where the party out of power always always gained seats. In fact, the only time it hasn't happened has been twice under both George H.W. Bush and George W. Bush. And the reason why they were able to maintain a control of both chambers of Congress at that time is because the United States was at war. So this is something that the Democrats are historically fighting against. But right now, Charles, it looks as though even if Republicans do take control of one of both chambers, it will unlikely be the red wave that many predicted that it would be earlier in the year.
And I mean, after all the congressional committee inquiries into the January the 6th attacks and their attempts to draw attention to the survival of liberal society in the face of the ascendant far right in America, I mean, does all that play into the midterm elections?
Well, Charles, when you look at what voters care about and what voters have been saying for the beginning of the year that they care about, unfortunately, democracy has been far down the list. The biggest issues have been the inflation, the economy, and of course, abortion, the Dobbs decision. Democracy simply is just not an issue that right now is top of mind for voters. Yes, they are concerned about what happened on January 6th, and they do want to see accountability, but it's not the issue that's driving many people as they head to the polls.
And Eric, we've got about 30 seconds or so. There are reports that the Republicans are running out of steam over funding of Ukraine and are likely to put that funding on hold if they win. I mean, how true is it that they'll rethink aid to Ukraine if they win control of Congress?
Well, Charles, that will most likely be the first big issue that we will see Republicans at odds over. Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell wants to see robust funding continue to Ukraine. We have heard from the House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy that he wants to put a stop to that funding. So that would be an issue where right now we see Republicans are at odds, and it's unclear how that decision will play out.
Eric, great to see you again. Thanks very much indeed. Eric Ham, Arise US correspondent, talking to me there from Washington.